Welcome to episode 3 of the Fitasylum Podcast. Today I'm excited to introduce our guest, Tilak. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a filmmaker. I make like short films, commercials, music videos. I've worked with Deck a lot in the past and just creating like branded content and like really telling a good story, but obviously through visuals.
On show notes here, it says, what do you enjoy? But we've literally just seen what you enjoy. And it's setting up and being very particular about film, audio, just the quality of your setup. And I've worked with 2 or 3 videographers in the past, and no one is as particular as you. Would you say that's fair to say?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, as in, I know a lot of people like try and do it like quick and easy, and like it's like, oh, like I'd rather like be a lighter camera, but I try and really like make the effort, like no matter like what it is, just make it the best you can. So yeah, no, I really think like I try and like do the extra amount. Like I'll always be the one with like loads of equipment, like loads of like things, but like just even if it makes a little bit of difference in the image, like it's always worth it.
The famous TARDIS with all your equipment. I was actually telling Harry earlier today, the first time like we met, I'd already had a videographer before yourself and like photographers, and we just wanted to go in a different direction. And then you came in and your process was completely different, where like you had a visionary board and like you were like, exactly what do you want out of that content? And it's funnily enough, we talk about this on our mentorship program. When we talk about students creating content, we're always telling them, 1, talk about your passion. But 2, make sure you have like an idea of what you want to get out of it at the end. What's the point of it? You used to always tell us like, what's our target audience and who is going to be seeing this video? And these are things that I would say people who are in the industry don't really think about.
Yeah, no, that's literally bang on. Like whenever we make films or videos, like there's so many videos right on social media, and for yours to stand out, you really want to be like, okay, what are we trying to show? What's the message? What's the like story? Which is what everyone goes on about. So yeah, I try and like really nail in like what am I trying to say with this video? What emotions am I trying to like show? And then when you hit those key points, like people just remember the video and it means more. So it's just more of an important piece.
It's funny you said that about emotion. We talked about videos that you'd done for me in the past, and the one that we both was brought up together was a very emotive one of like Martin getting 300 kilogram deadlift. And like basically what Tilak did is he videoed the whole process of like the months and months of training that we went in to it, and then he videoed the day that we did it. But just the vibes around it were amazing, weren't they? It was really fun.
Yeah, like, it was so interesting because like I don't really come from like a gym or like powerlifting, weightlifting background. So just seeing that progress of like no matter what it was okay, cool. It was him lifting a certain weight, but it was like his mental, like his partnership with the gym, like through different people, like all his relationships, like what it took him, not just like physically to lift that barbell with the weight, but like also mentally as well. So like seeing that whole journey was like really interesting and inspiring.
Yeah. And like the point of that video was to show people that a dad of 3 could, turn his hand to powerlifting or go and change his whole body, his mindset, everything in the gym just by wanting to do it and the will. But you said there that you didn't really understand the gym. So I remember when you first started, you were like, right, Deck, I need to see every single coach working. As part of my research, I need to go watch every single class. I think you even partaked in some of the classes. Yeah. But you were like, you did so much research before you did like one video for us. It was crazy.
Yeah, no, that was the interest because obviously like I was so new to it. And then anytime I ever do anything, I always try and research and feel like, right, if I don't know what the hell's going on, I need to figure out what moves, how people are moving, like their emotions. So that's literally what I did with the powerlifting pandas. So I think there was about 4 of them, but I think Fraser wasn't there on the stack like one day. But yeah, it was just literally me going around watching them do what they do, like doing different moves, different lifts, seeing the relationship between like yourself and then the lifters, seeing like how you coach them, seeing like what works, what doesn't, like really like getting into the details and then trying to be like, right, I really want to show this off. I see that, Fraser's a funny character. Like I want to show that off. I want to show how like G or LJ is like really like determined and really focused and like really pinpointing and showing off those personality traits.
Yeah, it was, for anyone that doesn't know, the Pandas was my powerlifting team that we put together, and it was like a very successful team. They did really well, and they basically trained together, and Tilak took them through that journey of the different training, and we had some fantastic personalities, like you've already mentioned, Fraser, LJG, but also like Josh,
yeah.
Which automatically makes everyone laugh straight away just because he's a funny character. And I know he listened to our first podcast because he sent me a lovely message about it. And I think if he goes back and watches that video, like he'll be very emotive because now he's like, quite high up at his job, and he's
Yeah.
quite a serious guy. But back then, would you describe him or characterize him as serious?
No, so it was really funny, like seeing like little things like that, like he'd forget to do things, or he'd be like a bit lost sometimes. But yeah, no, just seeing stuff like that, like how we both just laughed, like certain characteristics, and then when you see that, you're like, we know who that is.
we wish we could have recorded every minute of Josh.
Yeah.
This is a man who would wake up, smell his armpit and go, I don't need a shower today, I'll just go and train. Lovely human.
Yeah.
But a funny lad and, kind soul. So tell us something no one knows about you, T. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Oh, it's a tricky question. It's actually one that I ask a lot of people, but I don't really know the answer, because I feel like I'm quite open. But I guess just like a lot of people don't really know like how much effort I put into like videos and stuff, and like my process. I think just like the amount of like, even if it's like a simple thing like a soundtrack or like the music behind a video. I think not a lot of people know that. Like with the pandas was a perfect example where I think I spent a good like 2-3 hours looking for music, and then when I got it, I can't even remember what the exact lyrics were, but it said like strive for greatness, and it was all linked to do with what they were doing. When you watch a video, no one's really gonna pick that up like, oh, like this matches what they're doing. But when you really think about it, like, oh, like literally the music, everything matches, like everything in that piece matches, the music, the visuals, everything.
So some things that I'd like students to take away from this is, one, if you are going into like an area that you might not know, like when Tilak came to video the gym, he really researched it. And I can remember going into like when I first started teaching, I really researched it and like looked at different teaching styles, but also like went and asked people who were like much better than me and much more qualified, like Harry and Nathan and Jasmine. So it was really, really interesting to see their different takes on it. Also there you talked about you were quite passionate about it and you really wanted to make sure your work was top quality. And again, I think students, if they work in an area that they are passionate about, they will usually find work a lot easier. So some students might say, I'm a strength coach, but I'll work with someone on body composition or recomposition. Realistically, if they try and get clients for their target market, that will really, really help them to stay passionate with their job and their career. So it's quite interesting that you talked about that naturally with your business. But how did you start your business?
So it was actually something that I've always wanted to do. And again, like the point that you said about research is so important. Like you really have to know your market, know like what are you trying to create, how are you going to like stand out. But I think it literally started after I came back from a break from like film school. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I want to freelance. I knew a bit, again, like spoke to people that had already done it, and then just went out and did it. Like I didn't really wait. I know a lot of people have that thing where they're like, oh, I need to wait until I'm this like level, or I need to wait until this. But honestly, the best advice is just go and do it. Like, yeah, research, but then also don't be scared. Like literally put yourself out there. One big thing that I remember speaking to my dad about was, like, oh, I'm in Preston, like my family moved to America, so I was like, the jobs are over there, the jobs are in London, there's no, like, you'll make excuses for yourself. And even in Preston, I was like, there's probably no one that's going to be willing to pay like the prices that you should charge. But then after speaking to my dad, I was like, if your quality is good, it doesn't matter where you are, like people are going to pay, and also like you will be in demand. So that's literally the attitude. I was like, okay, cool. Well, let me just try, like give it my 100%. So reaching out to loads of clients, including Deck, and just be like, look, this is like the kind of quality I can offer. Are you interested? And surely enough, not just that, but like a lot of people in Preston like reacted very positively. And it was like, oh, like if you're good and you're passionate, like that'll always come through.
Yeah, so like we did it where we did like a month trial, didn't we? And then it was such a good service that we did it for 12 months, which was amazing. But you said there you went and spoke to other people in the industry. Again, I think that's really important for our students, whether you were doing a massage course, a personal training course, the level 4 PT course. Go and speak to other people in the industry. When we have students who are telling us they're going for job interviews, I always say to them, instead of just speaking to the person at the interview and asking you questions, go and speak to some of the people who are employed there. Speak to them, ask them questions about like what their industry is like. Speak to other PTs. I always recommend getting a mentor as well, which I think is very important. So when did you start your business and why?
So I think I started it on October the 22nd, 2020. And it was literally just after I came back. Again, the whole reason I started it was I wanted to start, like, since I came back, I was like, I want to make like cool content. I want to like create some really sick films and then just help like my local community. But also just because I love it. Like it was just so fun. And I'd never really made any projects. I was like, okay, like this is what I want to do.
Yeah, you could tell you were passionate about it. I remember you saying every time you did a job and you got paid for it, you were like buying new equipment and stuff like that, and you were building it up.
Yeah, just literally reinvesting in myself, figuring out like, right, even if I know a lot of people don't really care about this, but it's like, okay, cool, like we did one video, how can I make it better? How, if it's lighting, if it's audio, if it's the way I made the video, like critiquing everything, always like trying to be better.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of like good to PTs, people who do the sports massage course, like so therapists, they could reinvest in their business, whether it be, you know, buying little bits of equipment if you're a PT, whether it be investing in CPD courses, going to higher education, all these things, constantly reinvesting in your business. And on the show notes here, it makes me laugh already because we asked Harry and we have asked the other like people we spoke to on the podcast, what's their biggest mistake in business? Because I said, I've learned so much more from my mistakes than I have from my successes. And I remember reading a book that told me, your first business will be your worst business and you'll learn so much from your mistakes. So I know your biggest mistake was asking Tom for music choices, but what would you say your biggest business mistake was?
I think the biggest business mistake was selling yourself short, or not believing in yourself, because I feel like we make so many excuses. Like, I remember when I first started, I was like, oh, like I don't know if I'll I don't know if I want to go to this event, or I don't know, like even free work. I think doing things for free is so useful, because like you don't know the power of who's like in the room or who's there. And like networking is a big thing that I learned. So like holding myself back, like thinking like, oh, like you might be too good, or like you're just not worth your time. But now it's like always being like ready to do anything, because there's so many times where I've done something for free and nothing's really come out of it, but then maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, a month later, someone who was there saw how good I was, and I was like, oh, like I'm working on a bigger project, do you want to jump on? And I was like, wow, like I would have never thought that would have come across. So yeah, just not holding back, like literally like you miss all the shots you don't take, and like that's one big thing. I was like, just don't miss any shots. Like
just say that again.
Just don't miss any shots. Wait, hold on, I fucked up the quote. What was it? You miss all the shots that you don't take.
That's the title of the podcast, by the way, Cal.
Yeah.
You miss all the shots you don't take. I love that. But no, there's two things there for students to take away from that. One is I always believe in getting out in the industry and experiencing different kind of sections of the industry, whether that be, if you're a PT, you could go into strength and conditioning coaching, try different gyms, try different environments, try different training styles. But also where he talked about doing free work, I did like internships at different places that opened doors for me I never thought would open. And then the second thing that I took away from that as well was, you know, PTs don't believe in themselves enough sometimes. And then when I say to them, the average PT in the UK is £40 an hour, they're like, no way am I worth £40 an hour. And I'm like, you are, trust me. You spent a lot of time educating yourself. You spent a lot of money educating yourself. You spent a lot of time continuing to develop. You know, you are worth that money. So it's really interesting that people don't believe in themselves. You know, we do have it on the flip side as well, where we had one student telling us we're charging about £100 an hour. Me and Harry discussed it earlier. But it's funny, when I first started PT and I was charging £10 an hour, because I thought that was pretty good. And also I would just love what I was doing. And I'd usually do like 2 or 3 hours with them instead of an hour, just because like I just rabbit on and just carry on.
And actually a point to add on to that. So I recently started going to the gym, and even like I actually went with my auntie. And I'm no PT, but like I kind of know the basics. So I was just showing her through it and like encouraging her. But it actually surprised me how many people in the gym don't know what they're doing. And I was like, wow. And even like, because I'm quite social, so like a lot of people talk to me. So even in the sauna, a lot of people are like, oh, like, are you a PT? And I was like, no, I was just like helping my auntie out. And they were like, oh, okay, because I'm looking for one. I was like, oh, you really know what you're doing. And like, even if they have a decent physique, there's so many people in the gym that I realize you either have really bad form or you don't know what you're doing, and they're kind of sometimes scared to like ask. But like when they see someone, like I didn't really know what I was doing, but even for me, they were literally willing to be like, oh, like I'll pay you to PT me. And I was like, that's insane. That like there's crazy, so many people in the gym that don't know what they're doing, so it's such a big market.
No, my mentor got me to do a research drill once. He said to me, stand at the bottom of your stairs in your gym, because you just have to go up the stairs to get to the gym that I worked in at DW. Mm-hmm. And he said, you remember them little links clickers from the advert?
Oh, yeah.
So we had one of them, and he said, ask everyone if they've got a plan on what they're doing today. and every time they don't have a plan, just click it. And we had like 900 members come in the gym that weekend, and I think it was something like over 800 of them didn't have an idea of what they were doing, and they were at the gym ready to go up the stairs to go in.
Insane.
They were like, "Oh, I'll just go on the treadmill for a bit and see what happens afterwards, see what kit's available." And when he told me that, I was like, "Yeah, my service is needed." And like, it's so crazy. Yeah, it was madness. So obviously we're an education provider, so I'm going to ask you a little bit about your education. So you went to film school in London. You've already talked about that. Your family obviously live in America now, so you've done some stuff in America. So what has your education and journey been?
Yeah, so it literally started from obviously college. I went to Newman, did like some media production, so kind of like a general idea of like film, TV, radio. Then I was like, okay, cool, I want to specialize in one thing. Went to film school in London, so Ravensbourne, went there for 3 years. That was really good because again, like you're with like-minded people. Like you really got to hone in on what exact skill you wanted to like focus on, like if it was directing, if it was editing. But I think the biggest thing was like, okay, great, like university is great, and the courses that you go on, they're really like, they're good to give you a foundation, but doing that self-study and really going out there and doing it for yourself or talking to people in the industry and actually working with like other people in the industry like benefited me the most, because I think that gives you a good foundation. Like the courses and like the education you do is like, okay, this is like the traditional sense of what you need to know. And then when you go out in the real world, obviously things change, right? So you want to keep up with the times. So again, with research and like literally everyone says it and it's very cliche, but knowledge is power. Like the more you know, it's going to be better.
No, I think that's very, very true. We actually just did another podcast before this where we talked about like the difference between education and then professional life, and then kind of that pathway into professional life. But you touched on it a little bit there. How was that for you? Because you became a professional while you were still at college and university. Yeah. How did you find that? Is it quite easy in your industry?
So it's tricky because obviously that the work-life balance is one where it's like, like when does work stop? When does your like life take over? I think it's when you're passionate about something, it's really hard to distinguish because it's not something you want to be like, like I have to work. It's like, I can't wait to get into it. I was like, I can't wait to do this with this like client or this business. Can't wait to make this video. So like, you're always going to be thinking about it, and that's a good thing because you're passionate and it shows that you're going to be driven. But I think you also got to like be able to balance and make sure that you take time out to like recover and like have those rest days where like, okay, like I need to relax. But for me, it was decent. It wasn't that hard just to balance because again, it's something you love doing. So yeah.
Sound is a really good advice for students. And something that I decided, or me and Harry decided today, is that from every guest, we're going to ask them to leave one tip for students who are in education and one tip for their professional life. And we're going to try and create a full 2023 book of this so we can give it out to people at the end of the year. So all our guests, everyone we interview, will give one tip to students and one tip to professionals. So what's your one tip to students?
For students, considering I was literally just one, I'd say pretend like, even though you're a student, pretend like it's a job. Like literally be like as much as you do for your school, do it for yourself. Like take yourself professionally. Like just how when you go to a normal job, you have to start at a certain time. You have to hit certain goals. Like one thing I started doing while I was at college was have a list, have a to-do list, have a task list of like, these are the things I want to check off. It can be long-term goals. It can be short-term goals. Like have goals, work towards certain things. Don't just, like you said in the gym, right? You can't just go in without a plan. So yeah, like prepare yourself, plan, track your progress to make sure you're obviously going in the right direction. And then, yeah, just the more planned, the more researched, then like the more professional you can be, just not within like life, but just in general, like how you take yourself is like how you're going to strive.
No, I think that's really important. Like on the way here, when we were driving back from getting the lights, you were talking about how you'd been contacting your old like people that you'd worked with, which is really good since you come back from America. Mm-hmm. But you'd also said a little bit about when you first started working with me. I remember you sent over your proposal, and I remember thinking that's really, really professional. Yeah. But you were still a student then, weren't you?
Yeah.
But you took yourself so seriously and so professional, and it came across, and like age never even came into like the thought process. So it was really crazy just because of how professional you were with every single step. So I think if students do think like they're a professional, that'd be really powerful and important. And like we tell students once they get to like a level 2 and they start doing the level 3 course, I always start telling them to, start looking at gyms they want to work in, start looking at setting up your own brand, get your Instagram going, start creating your waivers and your PARQs and your consultation forms. So yeah, I think it's a very similar sort of thing. So I think that's a powerful one. And then one tip for professionals.
Okay, so I would say for like obviously you're doing the like thing that you want to do is just don't get too comfortable. I think some people find it like, oh, like once you get like I feel like everyone has a target, like, oh, I want to make a certain amount of money, or I want to like help a certain amount of people. Just always push yourself and always like try and like either be different or make sure you don't like lose sight of why you started in the first place. Because I feel like some people kind of get bored or they get like okay, like that's me, I'm good now. So like always try and like push yourself, always just like be better, and then that way you're always like on top of your game.
That happened to me actually, to be fair. Like I think I was about 7 or 8 years in as PT, and I kind of got cozy and relaxed, and I just wasn't striving to be better.
Yeah.
And then obviously I met Tom and Pish, and like they really helped me get back onto continue and develop, and then, you know, become a really good coach and make sure I am constantly developing. So yeah, it's a really important one for students, that to keep sight of the goals that you set yourself and why you set those goals. But mate, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being on, and thank you for this amazing setup.
That's fine. No
and
worries.
I think the students have got a lot of golden nuggets to take away from that. You know,
no,
Harry's nodding, Carl's nodded a little bit. So thank you very much.
No worries,
really appreciate it. Where can people find you actually on socials?
So yeah, my socials are Tilak Studios. I'm sure it'll be in the description, but
it will be.
Yeah. So Tilak Studios is where like I'll put all my Instagram, like all the stills from like shoots we've done, BTS stuff like that, and then obviously my YouTube is just Tilak Limbacher, just my name.
But yeah, you can thank Tilak for all the stuff on Instagram as well, because he always helps me with it, and even now he drops me messages going, oh, you should do this, or this looks good, this doesn't look good. So even now he keeps in contact with us. So thank you so much, man, and thank you for setting everything up. Great to have you on.
Glad to be here.